Jill here with Sirius Dallas Moon, and this is a Water Expands Upon Cooling episode. Now, I know I have stated that a lot of this season of Water Expands Upon Cooling dedicated to the missing people, Moon Hour as we speak. Moon is 19 degrees Pisces. I said that a lot of this season has been dissolving or postponed or not tended to because when it comes to tending to the missing, since we don't know if tending to them can kill them, then I don't tend to just every missing case as a case. But this one, I believe, is pretty much um, the Israeli Mark Dutroux. And this is kind of a gut feeling that I have. And this is a case of Haymanut Kasau, a 9 years old Ethiopian girl that has gone missing February 25, 2024 in Tzefat. Um, and the issue was she was getting into an emergency center or a center where people come to when they just immigrate. And there was a missing footage when she came out. It was a child that would not go without her parents. Haymanut, by the way, means religious faith. So, without further ado, I'm going to go to February 2025. But first of all, I'm going to hold two charts. One is the chart that I'm looking at the case, and this is Moon Hour, Moon 19 degrees Pisces, applying to trine Jupiter in 22 degrees Cancer, squaring Chiron 22 degrees Aries. Context. My last post on Facebook was, this is the spirit of the time to create a weapon company that manufactures defective bullets or defective weapon. And then, of course, I looked at the chart. Moon was 1 degree earlier. It was 18 degrees. Jupiter was squaring Chiron 22. And I remember when I looked at Schindler's Chiron and how the Chiron, which means the wounded healer, and how the wound was the healing around the industry of weapon company, which managed to save people from being killed in the death camps. And the fact that we have a Chiron 22 here tells me that it's possible that Haymanut is alive. What I mean by that, definitely there were attempts on her life. She may have been deemed expendable child, and they decided that she's not expendable child because there is a wound around her bloodline. Blood is Mars. Mars is in Saturn, the bloodline and the lineage. And this is to do with religion. Okay, immediately I think about, oh my God, okay, she's Ethiopian. The stream of Judaism in Ethiopia, they did not hide the book of Enoch. And Enoch, some connect Enoch, Anunnaki, and she may be seen as the bloodline that is basically either associated with the Anunnaki or, and there can be an issue about that bloodline. Now, religiously, Ethiopians had a really hard time being acknowledged as Jews. The women were chemically castrated using psychiatric pills. Okay, they couldn't chemically castrate them using psychiatric pills if psychiatric pills were not chemical castration. So now, um, and this is because of the differences that the Ethiopian Bible comes with the book of Enoch, and the Judaic streams in Israel or Palestine were not accepting of that. So they tried to castrate the women. They did not take the blood of Ethiopian people to when Ethiopian people donated blood, there was a scandal around it. So basically, the wound around her bloodline make her not compatible for organ harvesting, and because she may be of bloodline that is considered connected to the Anunnakis, then there probably is a desire to preserve her. And so I do tend to agree, even with all this 22, the 22 here can mean warrior bloodline, ancestral warrior bloodline, or that wound is somehow um, very, very similar to what happened with Anneke Lucas, okay? So, because now, of course, this might mean the opposite, but we're trying to stay on the positive side. And I do believe that this bloodline would not be bloodline that they would want to intermix for, let's say, organ harvesting and so on and so forth. And yet, for blood rituals, it can be that this was an excluded, because Chiron is next to Aries. It maybe this was an excluded bloodline to offer as a bloodline offering. And so this type of 22 might have caused the desire to basically look deeper into the Anunnaki, or what is believed to be Anunnaki lineage, and that could have resulted in several other things. Um, moon is in Pisces. Neptune is 29 degrees Pisces. And um, I do believe this is a case that has a global meaning. And I do believe that it's something that I would not be surprised if it is connected to the same ring that is associated with Marc Dutroux. Moon, Saturn, and Neptune are all in Pisces, ruled by the 22 Jupiter, reception between Jupiter and the Moon. So it is the belief of the people. They may have wanted to kill the belief of the people, but they didn't want to kill the bloodline because they wanted to understand the bloodline. It's a very ancient bloodline, and the wound around it is that it was excluded. And this is the excluded book of Enoch. Now, the other Jupiter sign, we have Mercury, that has ingressed into Mula Nakshatra today. And indeed, the post I saw there are many posts about Haymanut, but this post was the Academia of Hebrew Language. And they were looking at the meaning of Haymanut in Ethiopian, which is the religious faith. So this Mercury tells me a lot that there is something to do with trade, to do with belief, and to do with the language itself. They may have wanted her for her ability to speak the particular type of Ethiopian with the particular belief and the particular bloodline. And we have Black Moon Lilith at 0 degrees Sag, which is sexual sovereignty and the woman that would not be subdued to the man. Now, within the Ethiopian community, okay, this case opened kind of a can of worms of um, sexual boundary violation within the community and within the families. Now, within the Ethiopian community, um, Black Moon Lilith means that Haymanut here can carry a Lilith timestamp. Even though she was a child that would always go around with her parents, she could have carried either her matrilineage, particularly with Jupiter Moon, the beliefs of the mom, and the mom could have been a type of a Lilith person. Okay, or a type of a woman that would not be subdued, or that around the kidnapping of Haymanut such a topic could have arisen, or something about the child. Now, this can go as far as her thoughts, okay? Because this is children and because of the psychic abilities associated with this type of projects, she could have had thoughts that were not of subjugation of women. Now, I don't have the natal chart for Haymanut. I know that the Ethiopian community is usually a very closed community. A lot of the religious symbolism and tattooing is secret. Um, in terms of relation to women, they're not more progressive, but not extremely less progressive than other people that have, whether it's age gap um, or relation to women. Um, okay, there's like they're not progressive and liberal, but it's not something that is way more than other communities that we see. So the question is it something from within the community? Very likely it's something that has an international, a global meaning. Any Neptune cases has a global meaning, okay? Neptune missing, okay, is not one missing person. It has, there's a reason, there's a global reason people are going missing. There can be an issue of murder because of beliefs, but a wound around this murder. Okay? Now, this is one. Now let's take a look at the chart of the disappearance, which is 24 February. I don't have the hour. Beta per se will be minima today evening. And my gut feeling is it's going to be the Israeli Detru case, and this means that the people are not emotionally ready to understand what happened. And this is a, first of all, this is a case with any type of missing and tending to the missing, because there are many cases of true crime where it's cold cases and so on of people that we know, we have a body and so on. The missing is a Neptunian type of endeavor, and it requires both true crime and missing people require looking at the outer planets and societal changes. But this is with Neptune about to ingress the world degree. And let's take a look at February 25, 2024. And we're looking at the chart of an event. Again, the reason I'm comfortable with looking at it is because people are already looking for Haymanut. It is all out in the news. It's not something that I exclusively bring to the forefront. So, and this is Tzefat Israel. She was missing from Tzefat Israel. Tzefat. How do you even write this? Okay, I will look at, because this city is next to Tiberias. Okay, so this is for 25 of February 2024. I'm not looking at the time on the minute because I want to look at the atmosphere of the day. Okay, and the reason is that this would be a day where we would see susceptibility. So Chiron was 17 degrees Aries. What the heck happened here? It's the wrong year. It's 2024. 1,000 years forward. Yes, let me make sure I'm not confusing. That's also something that Neptune can tend to do. Okay. That's more reasonable. So, we had Neptune 26 degrees Pisces, Uranus was 19 degrees Taurus, Jupiter was in Taurus, 10 degrees. The moon could have been going over Black Moon Lilith, which was in Virgo back then. It's to do with Mercury, that can have to do with children. Black Moon Lilith in Jupiter is also children. Chiron Rao, a fated wound around identity, bloodline, action. Mars in Aquarius conjoining Venus, Pluto in Aquarius. Saturn in Pisces, Mercury, Sun, Saturn. I remember this Mercury, Sun, Saturn. It is a triple conjunction that was rather unique. And Pisces is about what is missing as well. And it was around Fomalhaut. The moon was crossing Fomalhaut yesterday. The moon was crossing Fomalhaut yesterday. And Jupiter was in Taurus, Venus was in Aquarius, ruled by Saturn that was in Pisces. The moon was opposing the triple conjunction from Virgo at the day of the disappearance. And this tells me that this is an event that would take time to resolve, but it would also illuminate on a religious orthodoxy. Okay, Saturn, orthodoxy, religion, Jupiter sign Pisces, to do with Christianity, the book of Enoch. Okay, Pisces. I know it's Judaic, but this is the transition, okay, between the Judaic Bible to the Christian Bible. And then we have this suddenly other stream of Judaic tradition that has the book of Enoch that is studied also by Christianity. And the ruler of the moon is in the sign of Pisces. Fomalhaut is the wisdom of the depth of the sea. And this is psychic wisdom. So an event of mythical importance to do with religion, psychic wisdom, illuminating, okay, not Illuminati, but illuminating on the depths of the deep, the structures of faith, religious leaders, Orthodox leaders. Saturn also rules melanin people, okay, and the Ethiopian. I know not all people in Africa are melanin, high melanin people, but this case, these people, the community has dark complexion. Haymanut has dark complexion, and there can be something to do with children trade. And Black Moon Lilith here. They wanted to understand what type of femininity, okay, that they wanted to. Okay, at around that time, there were a lot of discussion of the second coming of Christ, and the thought that this might be a woman. It can be that they were looking to see those type of things, or to check the possibility of using her as some sort of a prophet child or a prodigy child. Um, okay, because the situation is a bit different from the true case, as they are now bringing all the feminine goddesses to re-include women in religion, so not to lose basically religion, okay, because there's been a lot of push against religion from women's rights, understandably. And so it can even be that the prayers, okay, Neptune is words, Pisces can be religious words said to bring union. Jupiter was in Venus sign. When Jupiter was in Taurus, we heard a lot the word unity, union. Okay, by the way, with 2030, Venus is going to be in Sagittarius around some of the eclipses, and they're going to talk about unity. a religious unity that is inclusive of women, and Venus Jupiter is, Venus is to bring together, Jupiter is religion. So that can have to do with an attempt to create a one world religion. Jupiter Uranus marks these cycles of attempt to make a global religion. Jupiter religion, Uranus revolution. So religious revolution, Uranus technology, religion and technology, okay, techno religion. Uranus and global society. Okay, so global belief, one world religion. Saturn sextiling Jupiter, and Jupiter a point of Taurus between the moon and the triple conjunction. So yes, because let's say if this was happening in Mark Dutroux times, it's not impossible she would be deemed as expendable child, or would be murdered to extinguish her bloodline, or would be some sort of a destiny, something like that, to try to take the attributes of the bloodline, but kill basically the child, because they want to have a one world religion, and they understand they can't completely exclude women from the process of trying to achieve that. So she may have been here, and this data supports that because she's a girl, then she may have been important to try to bring about women, and also use the prayers in the egregore. Okay, because there's an entire community that is praying for Haymanut, and they pray the same. Of course, they pray the Ethiopian stream of Judaism, which includes the book of Enoch, and that brings about the enrichment of the egregore. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? But it brings about the practice of the Enoch book included type of religion prayers in the egregore of the one world religion. So, okay, because for every such case there are prayers, people become more religious, they try to practice the faith to bring back Haymanut, and Haymanut means religious faith, which is, as a, I tended to looking at cold cases in Netherlands from people that looked, at decades long. And I was able, because I joined the topic, following a lot of meticulous work, then I could see trends in social engineering and building up of trajectories along decades. So the name Haymanut here, there could have been an army of psychic handlers that could have tried to inject in the parents the idea to call the daughter Haymanut. And this is also where people have to consider the fact that names, okay, there's a wound around the name, and her name is Haymanut. Okay, Mars is names, Chiron in Mars sign, names, identity, and they could have the people that go to rabbis, to imams, okay, to priests, to consult regarding the name of the infant, are basically subjecting themselves to that type of social engineering. I know they want. I know they want me to say the opposite, but it's wrong. As long as we have ritual abuse within religious communities, that is the case, because the rabbi would have been brain controlled, okay, or the imam or the priest would have been mind controlled, born into ritual abuse. he would receive the name by channeling, give it to the child, the parents accept it as the name of the child. Okay, this is why a lot in many tribes in Africa, also my middle name was chosen like this, even though the parents were closer to Alaska than Africa. Um, and this is why they would name the child according to something that happens in the time. Now, I know that a lot of the imams and rabbis and priests do it as well. Um, but this is where the child would be named after something. For example, my name Tali is after the first dew that appears because I was born with the sunrise before the dew was drying up. So basically, that's the name that comes from nature, um, and that's something that is not prescriptive. Okay, and this is something very important because when we give the power of naming the child to, and again, I don't know how it's done in Ethiopian community, but Haymanut is religious faith. It's not something of a natural phenomenon. And while I don't have problem with things that go with human trait, um, I do pay emphasis on having people informed that when they go to rabbi, when they go to imam, when they go to priest, when they go to religious person, even if they would come to me as an astrologer, there's a shit ton of things that I go through and deal with, and there would be shit ton of things trying to attempt to influence me to give a particular name to the child, which is why I don't practice that practice, okay? Because I could look at natal charts. I would see, oh, where is Mars? Mars is here. Okay, do we need to remedy Mars? And so on and so forth. And then try to pick names that could be remediation. But I know that the interferences and the attempts to do all kinds of things to invert that are so maleficent that I don't brocage on that type of that type of field. And so the name Hymenut in that regard is very likely prescribed, and she very likely would have been a part of a couple of children that would be considered for this particular religious practice. Because think about, an, a dark-skinned black girl as the second coming of Christ. Okay, they've considered people from indigenous lands. Um, and of course, there is a desire to control a religious event. Now, Neptune going through the entire Pisces is a religious event, okay? Entire society of people learning casually to channel and think positively and manifest is not something that happens in every century, okay? It is not in that way. Okay, again, I know there was, um, yeah, I mean, we had Neptune, in this century, we had Neptune both in Sagittarius and in Pisces. Okay, it doesn't happen a lot. Both of them are Jupiter signs. Um, so Neptune in Sagittarius very likely has been the big revelations time. And Neptune in Pisces is more the ethereal aspect of Neptune, going into channeling, reviving the psilocybin near death type of things. And I really love that people like Annika Lucas talk about the actual research in this topic, which was way less benevolent. Um, and so, for this reason, for all of these reasons, um, there is very good reason to believe Haymanut is alive. Her case is serving as a purpose of occultistic use of religion to bring people to pray and feed an egregore that later they would be trying to invert or whatnot, but Pluto was in 1 degree Aquarius. February 24th. Sun in Pisces. Sun for Malaut. Sun can denote father, but also religious father. Around the full moon, the people who did that around the full moon, this showed there was an intent that we will see the missing. Okay, Mercury is cameras, the missing footage, the missing as the evidence. It was intentional that we would see the missing footage, because the missing footage denoted something grander, something bigger. There was full coverage. Okay, full moon is a time where they planned it. Full moon, it was meant that for all to see. Okay, full moon, in full light. It was meant for all to see. And that had religious connotations. Perhaps there is a desire to create a miracle. Jupiter squares Venus and Mars. There's a religious war around the fact that Haymanut is a girl. Haymanut is religious faith. Okay, it's like calling your child Jesus. If tomorrow there is a Muhammad going missing for 2 years and everybody prays to Islam to bring him back, it's at the border of combating ritual abuse. So there was a religious war. First of all, there was a context of religious war, but there was a religious war around unity and the fact that Haymanut is an Ethiopian, i.e., black girl. Jupiteranus, okay, Jupiter within less than 10 degrees from Uranus in Taurus. religious revolution around women. Okay, there was a symbolic event that religion will not be able to sustain without women, and yet a religious revolution because Haymanut is a girl. There was a desire to create unity around this case of a missing child, but the problem is that the missing child happens to be an Ethiopian black girl. And so, and it's a problem both within the community and outside the community. Because of Saturn, we indeed see a delay in even making the searches go viral. In fact, right now, Saturn is approaching the degree where Neptune was, and only now it's going really viral. A lot of you seen the picture that I showed of Haymanut in the past year or 2 years. But I have to admit, and this is where my reflections, I always take a look at the chart of when I'm taking a look at it, and I also take a look at my reflections as the person tending to the case. Right now versus 2024, there was a delay. There was, it took me time to understand what this case is about. And now when I got this, like, it's the Israeli Tetru, and the people are not psychologically and mentally and emotionally ready to digest what happened here. Maybe they are beginning to be, but not yet. And this is why we couldn't find Haymanut. I was so much as so I was doing something close to graffiti in bus stations around the area, um, because of the attunement to the missing. There was a big war. There were the kidnapped people. Nobody was looking for Haymanut. And even now, with Neptune's dissociation, I truly don't remember what was I on to, because that case really got me. And I made sure I look also at other cases of missing people. In the past year, I did learn a lot of things about extortion cults and the pedophilia agenda, together with the other things that I saw about what they talked about, the second coming of Christ, and so on and so forth. Chiron Rao, fated event, Mars in Aquarius. So if I compare these two charts as context, in one Jupiter is a point of Dallas, in the second Jupiter is in a little degree but receiving a square from Chiron, which could mean that there was an attempt but it didn't work, or there was okay, there was and the moon is trining Jupiter. So Jupiter is not a point of Dallas, but there is a reception between the moon and Jupiter, and Jupiter is squaring Chiron. Both Mars and Venus are in Saturn's sign, but it's Capricorn. Look at this. Um, Sun was with Saturn and Mercury in around formula out in Pisces. Now we have Venus, Sun, Mars in Capricorn. Saturn is minutes away from the degree Neptune was upon the day of kidnapping. It took a time until she was declared kidnapped. Okay, that time factor is Saturn. Also Neptune, but that time factor is Saturn. Delay. Jupiter is separating from a trine to Saturn, but squaring Chiron. There is a big issue. And indeed, what came up today was her name, the religious significance of her name. Faith and so on. So they really worked. This is a case where, and Haymanut was 9. This is 9 numerological years. She was kidnapped in numerological year. Yes, numerological year 8. And this is it. Okay, this can give me several points for thought. One, either we will see more about Haymanut, or we will see the truth, or we will see what happened to Haymanut before January. Okay, basically before numerological year 1, because this is a year of closure. And I have to go back to the year 1 that we had globally. That would be, if we are in 2025, that would be, hey, if we want to understand what happens when religious zealots kidnap children, we need to know their arts. And so, astrology, numerology, those are a part of the methodologies. If we want to understand how they think, then and they look at those things, then we need to study those things. I've been saying that with spirit, with water expands upon cooling since the first season, and I'm saying that in the second season. And as everything Neptune, I have surrendered. Okay, the second season, but this really is calling to tend to that episode. So if we're in 2025, year 9, that would be, year 1 would be 9 years back. 9 years back. Um, yeah, 2016. 2016 would be year 2016 would be year 9. 2017 would be year 1. And 2017 is, we had the Me Too. Uranus would later begin its ingress to Taurus, which he would perfect in 2019. 2017. Um, Julian Assange was imprisoned. I'm getting to try to make Julian Assange religious. It was so funny. Like, I saw that several times. Maybe something to do with Epstein. Um, there was, I think, one of his, not his spousey, but there was another lawyer that was involved with Epstein. Was it the Clooney's? I don't know. Um, so what's more, 2017, and he was arrested for espionage, which is Neptune. Yeah, they try to get him at the media. They don't. You know, if every person that harasses a woman would get would get a decade in Belmarsh, I think there would be no sexual harassment whatsoever. But this is. um, so this is completion of things since 2017. I know that in the academia I learned there was a lady that was looking at the castration of Ethiopian women. And the fact that they weren't accepted as Jews. And this is a completion in the form of Haymanut. Okay, it's okay. Now there were a lot of people being kidnapped and went missing. But here they wanted to generate something. Haymanut was 9 years old. 9 is year of completion, which means that this is completion to the year that she was born, which proves what I'm talking about, okay, that her very name was prescribed for the occasion. Peter Cheot, Peter, Peter Cheort. Okay, it's the same. Haymanut, fate. Peter Cheort was ritually abused, and then they thought that his brother did it, and his brother committed a suicide. That was the case in Netherlands several decades ago, and the person that looked into the case was called also Peter Peterche. But here the target was not a true crime, okay, a person that looks into true crime, but the target was um, okay, the entire community. That child would be like a prophecy child, like a protege child, like a second coming of Christ child. And this is why it was prescribed to call her Haymanut. And prescribed it means that they would even try to psychically cause the parents to bring that particular name. Okay, the wound around that name. By the way, 2024 Chiron 17 degrees. 17 is to do with the story of Isis and Osiris, which is important to the people that do the belief around the extortion cults. And 22 is also a very important number. It's a number to do with the living and the dead. And the extortion cults are ran for and by people that are considered clones of the dead. Okay, the notion is to basically have eternal life by cloning one's DNA. And the 22 has a significant importance to that. Um, to Nicholas Stojanovich's degree of to kill and be killed. But it can also be a mediumship degree. Okay, people that have connection to the dead. People may even wonder if Haymanut was a clone of a dead person, or that she was a reincarnation of a person who was a clone of the dead, or something of that sort. She is, I'm getting she is. And this is the problem. And this is a desire um, to control the second coming of Christ, to be at the junctures of religious evolution and try to control and divert the timeline into something that is under the control of those who consolidate the natural resources that are relevant to the time. The kidnapping happened on year 9 for Haymanut, which now she would be in year 1 and she would be entering year 2. I don't know when is her solar return. Let's see if we can have Haymanut's birthday. Let's see if that was allowed by the community. Here they say she's 11. Now she's 11. Just 2 years ago. Okay, I don't see if the community would want to expose that. They would give us um, the night or have the hour here. She was last seen at 7:30 p.m. and then it was reported at 10 p.m. to the police. We can take a look at that. I don't know how significant it will be, but it's not impossible for me to go the extra mile and take a look at the hour if we have it. Nada. It doesn't identify. It's fat. Probably there is some sort